This podcast is part of the Zeo to Hero Podcast Network.
Like one of the chapters is called, like, every chapter is named after the title of an episode.
Okay.
And that's purposeful, but also it's like it can be confusing though if you go into it like thinking like, oh, because you see a title called High Five, it's about the episode High Five. No, it's not really. It's not about. It's a thematic title, but like High Five is an episode I talk about in early on in the book because of when you're explaining the details of something. Like, again, this is a book for people who have various understandings of how the show comes together, and there's a lot of people who don't understand like how Power Rangers was made and like the different, like the ADR process and all this stuff that we as fans we breathe it, like it's just secondhand knowledge to us. We know that how the footage was chopped together and stuff, but I think
heroes rise when shadows cast through the timelines flying fast. Legends old with stories vast. In their hands the morphers clasped.
Wild Man says, thanks again for everyone. No, hold on. Welcome back to this episode of Zeo to Hero. I'm so glad that you
back. Try it again.
I'm glad that you stood in line for roll call tickets, and now you're in through the gate to witness this episode of the best 100-yard game. I was trying to make a football reference there, Jim. So I am so sorry.
100-yard gain. Isn't that
like it's 120 yards if you want to get real technical with it. But
you clearly know I do.
Okay, well, so thanks again for joining this episode of Zeo to Hero, where I'm Billy, and I'm always joined by my brother Jim. And
don't you give them out my legal name.
Jim, remember the last episode that we were talking about the Bigfoot vlogs and this guy's like giving away all your secrets? He is now joined by a whole crew of cryptid creatures giving away secrets. So there's something afoot here. A Bigfoot.
Give me a second. I need to go find out if I need to do this now or not.
So like a werewolf ate a hippie guy, and then the werewolf got high off the hippie guy. Started tripping out. Anyways, not the point of the story.
It was Yeti. What was it? Yeti
vlogs. Look this up.
Let's see. YetiVlogs.com is still available. I should buy it.
You should buy it. All right.
I don't really want to. I don't know. I want to. I don't need to. I don't need to.
So Jim,
I want to let him have it.
All right, let him have it. All right. Well, it's on TikTok anyway, so you'll never see it because I know you don't watch.
Yeah, no, bad TikTok, bad.
So tonight, Jim, we have a new guest with us tonight, a man of many talents, a writer, I guess a marketer, you would say, definitely a sports fan, as we just talked about.
I do want to point this out. He's also a huge nerd,
big time, capital NERD.
Yep. Huge nerd, giant nerd.
Actually, just
also likes the sports.
Jim will let him slide, but I will embrace it because you don't find a lot of Power Ranger fans that are really into college football like I am. So,
Ben,
give me a virtual hug, buddy. No, so all right. We actually just produced a book of about Power Rangers from the 90s and the effect that it had on today's society, or as we grew up.
Correct this statement. We didn't do anything. We didn't do jack shit on this one. He did all this, not us.
He did all this. But I would like to introduce the one and only Joshua Moore from Kentucky. I just had to put that in there. So thanks, Josh, for joining us tonight.
Yay,
Thank you for this.
Kentucky.
Thank you for what you did with this book. I haven't had a chance to even get a hold of it yet, but that's what you're here for. We're going to dive into the nitty gritty of this thing and see how you came up with this. Yeah.
Yeah. It's quite a eventful thing, to say the least. All of it. I want to rewind back to the Yeti. I was ready to talk Bat Boy. I didn't realize we were jumping into Yeti conversation. I was ready I brought my Bat Boy notes. So
Oh, what you know? Hold on. What you know about this Bigfoot? Maybe you know something I don't know about Jim stuff.
Whoa! Don't be trying to spill my secrets, sir.
If y'all want to see something cool, I did pick this up over the last weekend. I'm kind of proud about it. I knew it's an Evangelion Unit 1 Funko.
Oh wait, I picked something up as well over the weekend that I didn't tell you about.
What you got?
I got the Bitty Pop Voltron with Shiro.
Ooh.
oh,
Look at
that's
that.
so cool.
Look at that. It's got a
Check it-
little tiny pop in it.
And I took it out of the box. I could actually, you know what? I might do this. Hold on.
You know what I did too? I also bought a miniature Omnimon. So from Digimon. Look, Josh. He's looking around trying to find something that he got too.
I was going to say, I did actually. I'm a big physical media guy, so I recently.
Yes.
Groove had a big sale a couple weeks ago. I picked up a bunch of Scooby Doo Blu-rays and DVDs, and some the Batman, the series that came after Batman, the animated series that everybody kind of hates.
Batman
Alright.
Beyond?
I picked
Wait.
that up.
Oh, the
it was
Batman.
after Beyond. Yeah, it was after Beyond.
Okay.
I picked. It was like I spent like $100 on DVDs and Blu-rays.
Wow.
And got like 8 sets. So it was pretty,
Are
pretty
they
good.
when you buy this stuff? Are you particular on like sealed or open?
Oh, they're sealed. Yeah, for at least in this, I'll buy pre-owned stuff. There's a site called monstermall.com that sells a lot of boutique Blu-rays. I don't know if you're familiar with that world, with the Severins and Criterions and a lot of these Vinegar Syndrome. A lot of these kind of a lot of them dabble in Criterion's the one everybody knows that kind of handles some more popular movies. The other ones are more dabble in like beef movies and crappy horror movies and that kind of stuff. So I like to I indulge in all of it. So
I'm about to say, like you're buying like this is a children's friendly podcast. Talking about that kind of stuff.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah. Don't go to Vinegar Syndrome, children.
I'm gonna look this up after that. After this, I'm gonna look that up because I don't know. I've never heard of that. Oh wow. So you buy physical meat. Wow. So I've never the only time I ever hear anybody that does that is like records, because apparently records are coming back now too, like popular demand.
Oh yeah.
My father-in-law is one of the biggest record collectors you'll ever meet in your life. He's got there's a whole room in their house that he's like added on to their house multiple times over the decades, and one entire room is just record storage. Like it's remarkable.
You get to see some pretty cool stuff like that. And I love how they're putting like newer music onto records, because like that's when you think of a record, you wouldn't think of modern like today's music on it. So
okay, so you remember the song Imagine Dragons? That one song, their really big hit, their first big hit.
I couldn't tell you.
Oh, hold on,
sing it to us. Sing it to us.
The first one.
It.
It was the first song I heard on vinyl in a long time, and it was really cool.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know that.
Oh, it was that really.
Oh, radioactive. It was radioactive, right?
That's the radioactive. That's the one.
I had to pull my memory. I was like, I know the song.
I was hanging out with a friend of ours, and they pulled it out in vinyl, and they played that song while we were a little happy. And it was beautiful, and I was like, no, that's
okay.
It was the record it just has a sound. It just
has that.
You can't get out of digital media.
It's like the wax sound. Tubes, you know.
Well, and I think there's something I appreciate about all physical media, but I think it especially applies to records. Just the act of having to work to put something on changes how you engage with media a lot of times. I feel like
Yeah.
it does, at least. Like, even
Yeah.
I notice it even when I put in a DVD on in the PlayStation. I use a PlayStation, but that it changed because you're taking it out of the box. You're reading the box a little bit. You're kind of
Right.
rediscovering something in a lot of cases. So
Yeah.
um,
And also with today's like society, how it's going, physical media is kind of just like dropping off, and you're only able to do digital. And like, what if that
Oh,
company
nice
deletes?
question, good sir.
It's like, what if like that company deletes that digital copy? Then well, there goes your $80
He has a
now.
shiny
So-
Butterfree, by the way. Sorry, he
Oh.
just sent a shiny Butterfree. Respect your collections.
Oh
good
yeah,
sir.
I dropped a photo, and it's kind of I junk it up real good, but one of those shelves is my wife's. The
Oh.
third one down is mostly her stuff, but like basically
Uh,
1, 2, and 4 are all some of my
Wow.
things. And there's
Is that
that
a
shelf. There's a whole other shelf off screen that you can't see, but that's the majority of the crap. And yeah, that knockoff Butterfree, I got it for like $2 on AliExpress or something before
There
the
you go.
tariffs.
Wow. Oh, look, you even got a little Bender and a Zoidberg. Oh man. Eh, my hats off to you. This is cool.
If anyone's ever questioning my cred as a nerd, I'll just throw that photo at them.
I clearly
You
don't
got
think anyone here can question your credit as a nerd because you did make a book about Power Rangers.
It's like you have your Rayquaza over your Bender and Zoidberg, and that's not canon. That's not canon. Because but I love this collection. I'm loving it. It's got a little bit of everything in there. You got a little War Greymon in front of your next to your football player, Kentucky player. I'm loving this. You made my nerd heart happy. There we go.
Watch, it's a stroke right now.
It's like the Hulk. The key is to always be stroked. But so tonight, Joshua, we actually have you on here because I actually came across some of your TikTok videos and of you on some other podcasts, and you were kind of like geeking out about Power Rangers. And then I saw that you actually just released a Power Ranger book called Morphenomenal, and you want to give us a little bit of like synopsis of what the Morphenomenal book is about.
Totally. It's essentially the phrase that so it's a nonfiction book, and to kind of make it drill it down a little more concisely, narrative nonfiction. Which I mean, you guys are smart. You're very intelligent people. I'm sure you know what that means.
Whoa! Don't ever call me smart.
Oh my god!
There are a lot of people who don't understand necessarily what that phrase means, but even though it's what it means. It's a nonfiction book that's trying to tell a story. So it's the story. My book is the story of Power Rangers. It's from the beginning, before Power Rangers existed, when Ham Saban decided he wanted to make more money than he already had, and decides to start funneling towards the things that he would need to do to make Power Rangers, and up until the very recent history, which my last edits were with the publisher. I had to like basically hard cut off March 1st, roughly, was like my hard cut of this year. It came out in May. So I had a that's one advantage, because it ended up with a smaller publisher. And so there's a lot of disadvantages that come with that. But one of the advantages was they go to print a little later, oftentimes, than the bigger publishers will. So it gave me a little more leeway to make some edits right down to the last, down to the wire. So, and that you kind of write in a way to where you leave it open ended, because for something like Power Rangers, for something basically like for any of these properties that we're ever talking about on a show like this, everything is open ended. Nothing ever ends anymore. It's Power Rangers will be here until we all die in some form. You're wearing a Dragon Ball Z shirt. Dragon Ball Z is going to be here until we all die.
Yeah,
the Simpsons are going to be here till we all die. There'll be AI voices. When my son's grandkids are going to be watching The Simpsons, and I won't even have bones anymore. I'll just be in space dust.
Yeah,
you'll be a brain in the jar, right?
Yeah.
If only. But Nixon, maybe Nixon, but we'll we'll do what we can with that, and so yeah. But basically, that's the book. It's drilled down a sentence. It's the history of Power Rangers from start to I won't say finish, but to where we are
present
now.
cutoff.
Yeah. How far did so did you get up to like Dino Fury with it, or?
Yeah, it was. So I wrote. I was able. So I was writing. I started. Okay, I'm going to do this as fast as I can. So I get the book deal.
Mhm.
After about 18 years of trying to pitch it to agents and stuff, I get a book deal in March. Well, I put pen to paper in May of 2023. So,
Wow.
and so at
Okay.
that point through the process, I had written some of it and done a lot of interviews and stuff, but
Right.
I was still doing a lot of stuff sort of contingent, like I was talking to people after I got the deal, because
Mhm.
once you have pen on paper, people are a little bit more willing to talk to you. So
Yeah.
that opens up a lot of territories, but it's also I was interviewing people. I interviewed Chip Lynn, a longtime producer on the show who worked on various seasons of the show, someone who was very connected to the show for people who might not know listening. I interviewed him, and then like 12 hours later, my son was born. My wife went into labor like 8 hours later. So like
Wow.
that's kind of the timetable I was working on with this book.
Oh, wow.
Trying to squeeze things in around every little
You
thing
got
I
the rest of
could.
the book done in the 3 days before she came home, right?
So I took a whole month off. So I have a day job. And I took off an entire month thinking like, okay, I'm going to do the dad thing. I'm going to, is our first kid. So we only, we're both learning along the way. And thought, oh, all right, I didn't do jack in that month. I wrote maybe 1,000 words in that first month, like that month that I took off thinking, because it turns out having a baby's kind of hard.
Mhm.
So, but by November, we're kind of getting our footing a little bit. So between November 2023 and January 24, most of the book was written then. Like 70,000 of like 90,000 words were written in that span of 3 months or whatever it is. And then I get it to beta readers, and my manuscript was due in April of 2024. So I'm reading, editing, all that, and then from there things slow down a little bit. But there's some other stuff that doesn't really matter that happens in between then in terms of edits and stuff. And then a year later, the book comes out. So I don't even remember the question I was answering now, but that's kind of
Yeah.
where
That's how the show
how it
goes.
all came together.
Okay. Now, how was it the publisher? Because I saw that you are actually in Barnes and Nobles. Was that
Yeah.
due to the publisher was able to get you in there, or?
Yeah, well, so it's interesting. So you can order through the online on Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, bookshop.org.
Right.
The thing with Barnes and Nobles, though, so my publisher is an imprint of. Okay, this is getting really nerdy stuff. So Applause Books is they originally were an academic. They are an academic publisher. They were originally an imprint of a bigger academic publisher called Rowman and Littlefield. Rowman and Littlefield doesn't exist anymore because they were acquired by Bloomsbury Publishing, which Bloomsbury Publishing is an independent publisher. They're not one of like the big four, but they're based out of the UK, and they have a lot of they're a big publisher in the UK. They publish the Harry Potter books in the UK. They publish kind of their big thing now is Sarah J. Maas. She's a really popular fiction author, fantasy, that kind of some of that erotic fantasy stuff that's really popular. She's one of those people, and so she's one of their she's basically their bread and butter author. And so now I'm owned by the people who do that. So, or my publisher is owned by the people that do that, I should say. I'm not owned by anybody.
So book 2 is going to be the erotic version of the story of
Power
Rangers, right?
I hope so. I mean, I think more phenomenal After Dark would probably sell better. Like,
you know what? That's our best episode of YouTube was Power Rangers After Dark.
That's going to be the name of this title. So
those panels at conventions are some of the best things you can go to.
Yeah.
I mean, they're worth every bit of the price of admission to the conventions.
There could be the best thing or the worst thing. You're like, oh, okay.
Sure. Oh my god. So as us Power Ranger fans, we kind of know the basis, and some people actually know more in depth of the series. Does your book actually cover more than what we would know, or is it kind of just like the history of it and the impact it took?
Yeah, it's interesting because that was something I struggled with for. Basically the main thing I struggled with writing. I was confident. I felt really good that I could write a good book and a very informative book. The thing I struggled with a lot though was, who is this book for? Is it for the hardcore person like me who like
Mhm.
knows a lot of this stuff because I grew up with it. I grew up with the show. I
Mhm.
never stopped following the show. I grew up in the fandom. I know all the crazy drama
Yeah.
involving like the really minute stuff that happens,
Mhm.
that happens around stuff like fandom. And or is it more for the person who's maybe they grew up loving the show, they left, they haven't thought about it in a while, they see this on a shelf somewhere and they think, "Oh, I love like." So it's about it's basically for the person that's in the middle of those people. It's kind of like
Oh.
and I say that like it's for anybody. I think anybody who has some relationship, whether it's really deep
Yeah.
or really shallow with Power Rangers, will get a lot out of this book. The person though, like I think like the nuts and bolts, like the beat by beat, like yeah, the hardcore Power Ranger fan knows that it's adapted from Super Sentai. They know how Saban kind of,
Oh.
pitched it. They know
Yeah.
that stuff. So like that's not going to
They knew
be
about Bioman.
yeah, they know
Yeah, yeah.
Bioman. Like that's a big thing. Like so for a lot of people that pick up this book, that's an interesting thing. I'm glad you brought that up because that's a good concrete example of something like fans know that. Like that's not new to us. But there's a lot of people that are going to read this book, and that's going to be the first time they hear about anything about Bioman, and that being the
Yeah.
kind of the first thing that could have been Power Rangers. And so
Mhm.
that's where, and it's about. So to me, it's a lot about just how can I tell this story in an entertaining and fun way that because it is. Because again, it's like because I think sometimes people also they hear academic publisher and think this is going to be really
Right.
dense and like
Yeah.
boring. It is not a boring book. It is written. I'm not like I don't think I'm like a funny person per se, but I do have a little bit of a dry wit
There's at
that I
least
think comes
5
through.
pages of adult coloring book pages in there, right? It's
There
perfect.
are there are unfortunately no coloring sheets, but there are a lot of photos. And that was
Oh.
something. There's
Okay.
a color insert, and so there's some. I'll tell you this about this. So this is a little behind the scenes on the photos because that was my biggest pain in the ass. I can tell you this. So from the get go, when I signed my contract with the publisher, we were so I promised up front I was 80,000 word book.
Wow.
And
Wow.
and an 8-page color insert, and that's on me like to come up with those photos. And so there's a lot of weird things that happen in between that, but by the time I submit my manuscript, it's about 12,000 words longer than I promised, and that was fine. That was like not a big deal.
Wow.
But then they come back to me and it's like, you know what? I think this would really benefit if we put more photos, like black and whites, throughout the text too. And so I'm like, okay, that's cool because I have a lot of stuff that I have access to. But now I'm gonna have to go back and start asking people for these things and start like, and
Yeah.
so it became a lot like what I thought I was gonna be getting a break when I submitted the manuscript, like a little bit of a break. I ended up
Mhm.
working as much doing photos, like getting photo forms and that because that was the only thing I also paid for out of pocket. Like I don't pay for interviews. I don't believe in that. That's
Yeah.
that's antithesis of journalism,
Mhm. Mhm.
to me. But I did pay
we
for
should,
photos because like rights to photos,
Yeah.
it's and people are it's something they like. It's a lot of it's personal stuff. So it's like, well,
Mhm.
if I can kick you, and it's like I say I'm paying for it. It's like $25 or something, for like a few
Oh.
photos. Like it's nothing like massive. And I did have like a small photo budget from the publisher too that worked out really well when we got acquired by bigger company because they had a different deal with Getty Images than the previous company did, and that
Oh.
opened up a lot
Oh.
of photos for a lot more
Yeah.
cheaper rate. Um, so that was like the biggest thing that helped me personally when the the publisher got bought out was it opened up a lot more cheaper photos and better
Like,
photos. And
fancy.
Oh. Well,
We
that's
just
cool.
go with the Getty images. You're like, oh, I
yeah,
like that one. I
Ah.
like that one. I like that one.
So
I like
well,
that
yeah,
one.
because I'd put together. So I like again, like kind of little, really nerdy stuff here. But I was working on an Excel spreadsheet of
Mhm.
like, okay,
Mm.
here's what I would like to use if we can afford it, and like I think I had like one photo from Getty the first time I ran through everything, and
Yeah.
then
Oh.
by the time all that stuff and the changes happened, I had like a ton, like several of the color inserts or stuff from Getty that we licensed.
Oh,
A few
wow.
of the black and white. So yeah, it worked. The photos and a lot of them. I definitely want to shout out the Morphin Museum. I don't know if you're familiar with
Oh,
those
Oh, yes.
guys.
yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They loaned me a
Yeah.
ton of stuff because they have a lot of good scans of like old PR images, like
Oh.
yeah, like press release like materials, and that stuff
Yeah.
is all technically like it's really easy to pass fair use for that stuff because it was distributed as materials to be used for journalistic
Mhm.
materials in the first place.
Yeah.
So, but they have really high quality scans of a lot of that stuff, and they shared that with me, and so I can't thank them enough for sharing
Yeah.
that because
Yeah.
that made the black and white thing a lot easier too because that otherwise I would have been grasping at straws trying to fill out some of that stuff. So we ended up
Oh.
with close to 100 photos in the book, which I'm pretty proud of. So
Dang. And then, so I know that you actually do like writing on the side for like you said you were a sports writer for a
Mhm.
while. That actually played into helping you write like I guess you could say like long form for like this book because I would imagine sports writing would be like a kind of like short form. So
yeah,
would you say that that kind of helped you like before you even thought about writing this book that actually helped you out later on?
absolutely. I wouldn't have been like naive enough to even think that this is something worth that I
Yeah.
wouldn't have felt comfortable even thinking about this as a concept that I could take on if I didn't have my background in sports writing. And yeah, you're right. Like a lot of sports, it is like deadline, like game story, like turn around something real quick. But
Yeah.
what really was an advantage for me in hindsight. So when I became I became a full time sports writer in 2015, covering
Mm.
high school sports here in Lexington, Kentucky.
Okay.
And my main task, though, like when I took over that beat, one, I replaced a guy who'd done it for 41 years at the pay. Like he was like a legend.
Wow.
He's got an
Yeah.
award named after him now. He's an amazing
Yeah.
person, amazing
Big
reporter.
shoes.
And my job basically was to like do things the exact opposite of him because we're trying to move this beat into more of like an online focused kind of reporting. There were things I did to make that successful, and there were things that I did that pissed people off because they didn't like change. And there were things that I did wrong because I'm just learning on the job to
Yeah.
a big extent. But why I bring that up is because the industry was changing so much.
Mm.
The way you wrote about like even like a game story really changed a lot in the time that I was coming through. And so it's less about everything becomes a feature at that point.
Yes.
It's less about recapping the game and more about finding the stories with instead of writing the story like, oh, so and so threw a touchdown and make that's like your main nut of your story.
Yeah.
And you're instead you're talking more about this guy, why this quarterback had a good game and why it mattered so much. So
Right.
and so from there, I get more comfortable doing that. And eventually I start covering the University of Kentucky football team for a while. And you just, you get better about identifying stories and talking to people and getting people comfortable talking to you. And so I felt really confident that I could do that for Power Rangers, but that was a big like hurdle to getting the book, even like in front of people to like take a chance on it because I'm not an entertainment writer from Los Angeles or New York. Like it's a weird thing for someone like me, a sports writer in Kentucky, to be bringing this particular project to people. It doesn't set off red flags, but you don't have a green flag. Like it's
It's
not
sort of green flags. I do want to point out one big red flag I see in like the Amazon reviews. This lady Margaret Loshik, she's like, no one's ever told the Power story. It says nobody else has spent as much time immersed in the show. I call bullshit. Bullshit. Billy and I have been immersed in the show since '93.
Yeah.
I feel personally attacked, and I want this lady to know this.
I love Margaret. She is a fantastic woman, and she was so nice for writing that. I think the important thing to note in what she said, because that was something when she submitted that as like a blurb for the book. Yeah, that's on the back cover of the book too. So
okay.
I'm gonna get the book. And I'm gonna scratch that out. And be like 0 to hero. Says this guy can shove it.
You have to pay attention to the conjunction and because it's all the whole thought is immersed in the show and with people who brought it to life and it's like my for me the pitch point for me is I'm the only person who has ever just who grew up with this show and who and that was ultimately the selling point for my agent that Mark Falcon, shout him out, that he believed in it was like he could see that I was passionate about this show and that this is a book that would someday exist. Somebody was going to write this book someday, like because Power Rangers has been around too long. It's been too impactful for it not to exist.
Personally being attacked like that, I don't know. Personally being attacked.
But yeah.
And so he thought, this is this guy cares about it, so he should be the one who writes it. And that was that's where we landed with it. And
so we're gonna be in book 2, right?
You could have been in book 1. I hate that I didn't discover you guys before then. I would have loved to have interviewed you.
Oh,
man, we would have gave you the best information.
I did interview a lot of fans. I didn't ultimately, I didn't quote everybody. I interviewed a lot of people who worked on the show that I didn't quote.
That was my next question. Is like with sports writing, you actually got to muster questions up to players, staff, stuff like that. And I was going to say that must have also worked well with translating over to like fans, cast. Showrunners, like behind the scenes people, like it makes you think, like if I could do it to a player, I'm pretty sure I could translate that to a fandom of a fictional show.
Oh, totally. And I've always that's always been my favorite part. That's kind of basically why I grew up wanting to write. Like I didn't necessarily grow up I didn't get into sports until late. I was in high school before I got into sports. I had a weird entry point into sports fandom because that's not common. Most people get into it when they're children. But my dad sucked, so he didn't care about sport and he didn't care about sports. So that's kind of like that's the here and there of that. But so I do that, but then you get used to asking questions and there's nobody I talked to for this book who unless I had talked to Ham Saban, there was no one that I talked for example, that I've talked to for this book that was more wealthy than some of the football coaches I've interviewed, so it's there was not that intimidation factor either. It's it's one of those things where you're a power position or whatever.
Right.
And
you might be rich, but I got steel toe shoes on. Your shoes look really kickable.
Yeah. Okay.
And I've made enough people, mad, and I don't go into an interview ever looking to make someone upset or something. But sports, people have really prickly personalities, and they get really, they'll get really offended by the most silly things. So you navigate that the best you can. So I felt great going into this, and honestly, everybody was awesome. There wasn't a single person. There were people that I interviewed, and I got off the phone and was immediately this was a waste of my time and their time, just but from a sense of they didn't have a lot of memories to share, and they didn't there's one woman, I don't even know if I ended up mentioning her in the book, because there's a whole list of everybody I interviewed in the back. But I may not have even listed her because we talked for 30 minutes, and she was a unit production manager on VR Troopers or something, and she she was around, but she wasn't really working on Power Rangers, and then she didn't even really have a whole lot to say about her time on VR Troopers. So I was like, okay, but that's part of the process. You have to you do that. You commit that time to it to find those people and turn over rocks, and sometimes those rocks ain't got nothing but turds underneath them. So
now the book does it just encase the show impact or did you kind of throw in some of the comics as well, from Boom?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Because I love those comics, and I think I was just talking with Jared from If You Give a Dad a Podcast recently, and it sounded like those were an entryway back for him into those and I think that and that made me happy to hear that, because I think those comics are really Kyle Higgins.
They're better than they should have been.
Yeah,
they're way better than they should be. You're like, oh, a Power Rangers comic book, okay.
Yeah.
You read it like, oh, hey, this is really good.
Well,
Like,
and
okay.
that's good to say, Jim, because for so long there's been Power Rangers comics. It's like it wasn't new to do a Power Rangers comic.
I have
They're all
the
like
original,
jokey.
I have a giant book of like the old Power Rangers comics, and they're all terrible.
Yeah, they're
just
basically like
garbage.
comic versions of the show, except
Exactly.
like the charm of the show gets lost once you translate that to paper.
Yeah, for real. Yeah.
Rough.
But with what Kyle Higgins did with it and Melissa Flores have just took it by storm. I love reading these things. I love collecting the holofoil ones only.
Oh, yeah, so you're one of those folks who's really doing the whole I did the variant thing for a long time. I love the action figure variants they did for the first
those are really fun,
like 20 or 25 issues or so. I have all of those.
I have the Omega Ranger holofoil helmets in my office.
Yeah,
they look so nice.
Do y'all have the issue zeros? Like the first the
I have a couple of issue zero stuff.
Not me.
I've got the issue zeros, and I've got they did issue zero prints at Power Morphicon or something a year before the comics came out. Somebody on Ranger Board was just getting extras and selling them, and I just happened to see it. So I've got all those prints somewhere in my house too.
Nice. I got the free comic book day issue zero, and then I have two more other ones that my comic book guy got for me, and so they're in my box. They're in the Power Rangers boom box.
I love that box.
It looks really cool. Box. Then I got that one. I need to get another one. To be fair with you, I need to get another box for comics because I'm running out of space. So
I've quit picking. I've got probably 15 floppies sitting in my folder at my local shop because I need room. I need to figure out a way to store and it's all
never
Power
too
Rangers.
late.
Like that's the only thing I buy.
Yeah, it looks like the old Bulk and Skull of podcasting here is going to make a little trip to Kentucky to renovate your house. You know, we're about to knock one of the walls
down. To be fair, we only do demo. Take that one out. Take that one down too. Take that one over there down.
Hey, I've got free labor right now that can do plenty of demo. He's good at breaking stuff. My little guy is. So.
Hey, so you said that you actually grew up watching the Power Rangers and you never stopped throughout the seasons. Were you in that demographic age range of Saban when you started?
I was so there's definitely a caveat there because I think I mentioned this in the back of the book too. I'm 34. So if you do the math, I was 2 when the show started.
Hey, we're the same age.
My mom says I was watching. I can't confirm. Obviously, can't remember. I don't remember what I was doing at 2. I don't know that I was potty trained yet. I probably wasn't.
So they found me in the woods around the same time. That was 2 when the show came on.
It makes sense. So
and so, but I did grow up. So my first memories of the show, that like the first time I remember watching the show actively, is in the Turbo in space is when I first remember like seeing the show. But also Power Rangers playback was going on at that time, and they were re-airing the old episodes. So I grew up with VHSs. I had like the original VHS, A Day of the Dumpster, Happy Birthday Zach. That's like one of my favorite early episodes is Happy Birthday Zach, and I think a lot of it's because I watched it a million times growing up. I had this is so stupid looking back. I had every episode of the Green Ranger VHSs except 2. So like I missed part 2. I grew up never having seen part 2 forever.
Until you're older now. Yeah.
You're like, what the hell is this?
And then I grew up, watching it and staying with it. Time Force is the season. Like that's my favorite season. I tell people, and I think, I think a lot of that's because that was also the first time I remember like really getting into a TV show.
Well, like if you really look at it, most people who are really into Power Rangers, that's the season that most of them were actively watching.
Yeah.
Like that was right after the Lost Galaxy, and then right after Time Force came along, and that's kind of where it was. That was the one that the trailer came out on the Digimon like VHS.
That's
and
right.
That's what caught everyone.
Yeah,
that's also the year we lost cable, so we didn't actually watch that one live.
Oh, so
we lost cable.
That was the thing, man. We had basic I don't even know. I guess it was basic cable. Like growing up, it was like 22 channels though. But like Fox Kids was.
Wait.
Fox
Did you
Kids
have that big ass antenna outside? The big ass antenna that like
yeah.
pointed?
Yeah, we had that
We
too.
had the same
We had
thing.
the same thing, yeah.
Dude, and I think there were points when I told you, my dad's not the best person. We were pirating, we were stealing cable from people at some point, like when I was growing up. Like, I
Ooh,
mean, it
poor
was
people unite.
You still got Power Rangers though.
You still got
Yeah,
that power.
yeah. We were watching it for and I stayed with it. So I never stopped following the show, but I did. There was a point where I kind of fell off watching just because the access to it got harder, and like it got to a point where they were airing it at like really weird times.
Yeah,
RPM was being aired at 5 a.m. on Saturdays. What
dude,
the hell was that?
We were one of those markets, and it was like, and I would wake up. I would wake the hell up, and it'd be preempted by like the 700 Club or whatever.
Like.
I would wake up. I was in college, and I would go out drinking the night before. Wake up at 5 a.m. to watch that shit.
Dude,
I'm sitting there. Oh, you're sitting there,
doing the same thing.
We didn't have cable in the rooms. We only had cable in the student lounge. Sitting there 5 a.m. because no one else is there watching Power Rangers.
That's awesome. So my buddy, so what we did, we used we were like huge in the Pirate Bay at that point. We watched the whole RPM, me and a buddy, on his laptop every day, like the next day after it came out, like because we downloaded it from Pirate Bay. I mean, it was like we were that in, but we were because like we were into
that's
it.
What I did for that's what I did for Breaking Bad. It was Breaking Bad, Walking Dead, and Game of Thrones. All three came out the same night on Pirate Bay. I'll get all of them at the same time. Let's watch them.
I actually loved how you said that when you were a kid, you kind of remember really realizing that you were watching Power Rangers at Turbo, because there's a conspiracy that they say that you don't, as a kid, you don't really have a conscience until a certain age or a time period. And a lot of people, and like me too, I'm 35, so I'm right there with y'all.
Old.
So I remember Power Ranger Turbo is like the first one I actually remember watching and understanding. You know
the weird one for me? It was season 3 of Power Rangers.
Huh,
it was season 3.
So you're a high vibration. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Let me
I
throw my
watching it. I remember the pink Ninja Zord.
Yeah.
The pink Ranger was supposed to be the pink Ninja Zord, but it was a white Ranger Zord. It made no sense because it was like, why was the toy pink and the show was white?
And they're all of a sudden they're sharing a cockpit.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, what's over there?
Yeah. So in your book, did you actually quote like actual specific episodes of the show or like seasons?
Yeah. So it's interesting because there's some people that have asked me, and I think this is a really fair question if you don't know what if you're trying to explain what the book is or you're trying to get an understanding what it is. Like they're like, is it a beat by beat? Like this is what happened in this season? Like no, it is not that kind of book.
Yeah.
It is only like sir, it is only 256 pages. It's not beat by beat. Come on,
no,
it's 30 years.
Like you couldn't do that book in 256 pages just with Mighty Morphin.
Oh no,
exactly.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But I do kind of point out like highlight episodes, like, and so for example, like the one of the chapters is called, like every chapter is named after the title of an episode.
Okay.
And that's purposeful, but also it's like it can be confusing though if you go into it like thinking like, oh, because you see a title called High Five, it's about the episode High Five. No, it's not really. It's not about. It's a thematic title, but like High Five is an episode I talk about early on in the book because of when you're explaining the details of something. Like again, this is a book for people who have various understandings of how the show comes together, and there's a lot of people who don't understand like how Power Rangers was made and like the different, like the ADR process and all this stuff that we as fans we breathe it, like it's just secondhand knowledge to us. We know that how the footage was chopped together and stuff, but I think so I used episodes to sort of explain some of that stuff to kind as a way to make it engaging for fans, but also to kind of showcase how things come together. I talk about no clowning around a lot in the book because I spoke with the director of that episode. He directed the Day of the Dumpster, the version that aired, the pilot, like the original version. I also speak to that director, but I also spoke to the guy who aired the aired version, the canonical version. And he directed that episode. He directed No Clowning Around. He directed High Five, and he directed Pressing Engagement. So 3 of those 4 episodes ended up being the first 5 VHSs.
Oh.
And so he just by the fact that he stumbled in and directed those episodes, and those were the only 4 episodes he directed, and I get into why he left.
Oh, yeah.
He was a great, Adrian Carr is his name. He was a fantastic interview. And it just happened to just by the stroke of good fortune have the directed 3 of the most famous episodes of Power Rangers.
Oh, wait. So I got another question for you too. So when writing this, did you kind of just stay on focus of like the good things, or did you kind of like dabble into, hey, this is kind of why it went this direction?
A big selling point for me on writing this book, because there was a book, I don't know if you guys have it. Do you have the Ultimate Visual History book?
No.
I know of it, but no, I don't have it.
So it's a fantastic book. But a couple things about it. It's a very much a visual history. So it's a big like coffee table book, very kind of hard to put on your shelf kind of thing. But the stuff that, we eat up, and it was officially licensed book. It was made when Saban Brands owned the property, and they're getting the final checks on things. And like, shocker, they don't get into David Yost leaving over homophobic allegations. They don't get into, they kind of gloss through why the original cast, Austin, Tui, and Walter decided to get away. They mention it, but it's like one sentence and done. My book, there's a whole, one of the whole chapters ends up becoming a big like walkthrough of that situation, and explaining like from all the sides, what we know. And so it's really, so in that sense, it really that's the biggest controversy that I dive into. I do bring up the Yost stuff, but I wasn't able to, like, what I would have loved to have talked to him, like, again, like, because I got to speak to him at a convention and ask a few questions, but I didn't get to have like a real deep one-on-one. And that's like one of my biggest regrets about the book, is I would have loved to have talked about that more with him, because I think that's because he did a great interview back in the day with No Pink Spandex about that, which is why everybody knows about it.
Right.
But I would have liked to have had a deeper conversation with him, to just maybe mine some more details, or just to see how he maybe feels about it now, a little bit more. Because we're further removed from it. He's had such a positive experience now with the show again, getting to come back and kind of mend some fences a little bit. So I would have loved to have had that opportunity. But yeah, I touch in, it's because it's a show, that's part of the story of Power Rangers. You can't tell the story honestly without getting into the some of the bad stuff that happened.
I love seeing that, like, from both perspectives of like, hey, this is why it was really good, but on the backside, this is kind of why it's kind of fell off at this point. But this season saved it, and there's some positive things of this that we learned from here. I love seeing that kind of stuff. Did
you get into the absolute tragedy of how they stopped using Ron Wasserman's music, or no?
Well, Ron's interesting. So I didn't get to speak with Ron. I tried. I reached out several times and he just never connected with me. But I did get into, like, I spoke with other musicians, and I spoke with Ron Kanan. I don't know if you guys know that name. He was the music executive at Saban Entertainment for a long time. And the way he tells the story of how the theme song comes together is a little different than how Ron tells it, because Ron tells it in a way where he's kind of the main guy who wrote it. Ron has a different version, so you blend that way. Like the way Ron tells it, like it very much was more of a team process than how it came together. So and he's told that publicly a few times too, so with Ron there. And so I think, in terms of like, no, I didn't get into like this is why Ron's music led, but I do think it is interesting to think about the show. The music is super important for Power Rangers. I think I think the obvious things, the surface level things, the costumes, like the timing of it, like right after Jurassic Park was a huge movie. I think that doesn't get brought up enough for why Power Rangers worked. Like dinosaurs were in the air, and but the music, man, and that stuff. I get into the music in one of the early chapters a lot. Like the music is just so different from anything that's ever been in a kids' TV show, especially that first 5 years.
Yeah,
and it really made a difference.
It really worked, and it was that the best way to describe it. no one was prepared for that.
Yeah,
Like it just came out of nowhere. It was pitch perfect for the show.
Yeah,
and it worked.
and it matched.
I know
I know
it was a group effort, but it just it was just we didn't know we needed that.
Yeah, I love what you said. It came out of nowhere because that matched the energy of the show. Like it came out of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Lightning in a bottle. Like it was perfect. Like
now,
the perfect timing, the perfect cast, perfect timing. The Green Ranger arc, it was all there, and it was it was perfect. And they tried to recapture that magic multiple times. It didn't really work. But Power Rangers was just.
I love how you see the shift from Mighty Morphin to In Space because, like you said, the dinosaurs was the thing with Jurassic Park, and then when Turbo ended, you kind of like everything started shifting to outer space TV shows, and kids were starting to wanting to see space.
Honestly, let's see. Next Generation was out during that time too, right?
Star Trek.
Star Trek Next Generation was taking a big hit. So
I didn't make that connection in the book, but I think I think Next Generation had a huge influence on Power Rangers going. I really do.
That's right.
It came out.
We were
right. Bald guy, TJ. Picard, Satan.
Hold on. I didn't. Oh, wow! I never thought about that.
Jesus.
All right, now here's the most important question of all. Anywhere in your book, did you throw a lot of respect onto Rocky DeSantos?
Well, yes, because well, I guess not necessarily respect, not the character specifically, but Steve Cardenas was one of the few actors who gave me I won't say extensive interview, but he was willing to talk on the record.
Nicest dude, I swear.
Yeah.
Steve Cardenas, nicest dude.
So a lot of
skyrocketed up my list quite a ways because there was a lot of people who their agents were just like I got just front ended by agents, and because they want money, like they want you to pay for an interview, and so I'm not going to do that. So I did with how I got in touch with Steve, I went to Ranger Stop Atlanta in 2023. And I every actor who was there, I went up, introduced myself, told them what I was doing, gave them my phone number, gave them, cards, whatever, and took, and asked for theirs if they were willing to give it. And there were a couple that did that, like, I won't throw anybody under the bus, but that I reached out to, and then they just ghosted me, and that's fine. Like, that's cool.
That's cool.
But Steve, I texted him, and he was like, "Hey man, I introduced myself at Ranger Stop," and he's like, that same day, he's like, "Yeah, I can do it for about 30 minutes at 2:00 or whatever it was," and he was awesome.
Wow.
So I really respected that. Like,
Steve is super nice. Like, we hung out and talked to him at a con over here in Buda.
You mean Waco,
yeah. It was him and Molten Skull. They were both there, and we all three of them were there. We were just hanging out talking to them, and they hang out talk to us. And then when we were my wife was with us, and they all she wasn't really as nerdy as we were about it. We were like, "Oh, hey, how are you doing?" Like they were asking her questions, getting her in. I was like, "Oh,
that's awesome."
These guys,
Jason and Paul are awesome. I didn't get to speak to Paul for the book,
fantastic.
But Jason was a super big help. I mean, there's some really some of the best, just like one of the best stories in the book, I think, is his story, like how he told me the story of how he got cast. It's one of my favorite stories because it's just so colorful. You can hear his voice in it. If you know what he sounds like, it's hard. I can't put into words how much I like that. And he also, I use something from him later in the book, in a point where Skull, like his character, is nowhere near it. But without spoiling it, but I use a quote from him that it'll make you cry. I'll put it that way. So
when we met. Yeah, we met them. We told them that we're kind of self-proclaimed Bulk and Skull of podcasting, and then they granted us the permission to actually use it. They knighted us, but we didn't have a foot-long Sonic corny dog or to them to knight us. But the thing with Rocky is with him is a lot. The fandom just doesn't like him very much.
Yeah,
But I was like, you know what, Jim? Let's be the two fans that stick up for this man. And
there's many videos of us defending Rocky.
And he comments on our videos. He says, "Thank you guys."
Hey, I love that, and because it's interesting because I imagine so much of that just comes from like the fact that he wasn't Jason, right? Like, because I don't like because when you actually watch the show. This is something I did a Reddit AMA recently, and someone asked me like what my favorite Mighty Morphin thing, like specifically Mighty Morphin, what my favorite thing was, and I brought up the comics at one point. Like if you'd asked me even like 3 years ago, I might have said the comics. But in the time that I've done this book, I've rewatched every episode, like of every episode of Mighty Morphin, and tons of other episodes down the road, like dozens of times. But season 2 of Mighty Morphin has become my favorite season of the show. Yes, and a lot of it is because those characters are better. So
the writing really took off. Like Billy evolved, so did Adam was there. Rocky, Aisha, Tommy really I know Tommy really became the leader of the show at that point. Don't get me wrong, that's fun and everything, but like the writing really took off. Like they started to actually have more story arcs instead of like episode by episode. There's more over stories.
That's where the seeds. That's where the seeds get planted for a more serialized show for sure.
If you ever, I'm assuming you've seen the history of the Power Rangers, right, from Likara?
Oh yeah. It's been a while since I've watched a lot of those, but yeah.
Oh yeah.
We talked about that too because he's watched every episode. And he talks about how season 2 really gets going. Like, it really sets the ball rolling and everything. And, like, going back and rewatching season 2, you can actually really see it. Like, there it is.
Because they do a lot of subtle things where they'll just, like, casually mention something, and then it will get brought up later, and it's like, like, this is where they really did start caring about the show more as a TV show instead of just something to sell action figures.
A ploy for toys.
Did you ever catch the Hollywood Demons show?
I didn't. I haven't. It's funny. Someone else asked me about that recently, and I've not had a lot of time to like sit down and watch TV. Because again, I'm a big NBA guy, so what little TV I watch, it's either like most of it's been playoffs. Like if I have a minute to sit, and I'm
understandable.
I'm a huge Cleveland Cavaliers fan, and I was like in a depressed state for like a week after they got knocked out early.
Fair.
Understandable as well.
But respect to the Pacers, they've clearly they're killing it. But from what I've read, what little I've read about the show, and like what people have told me about it, like I don't want to watch something that's going to make me sad, right? Like,
you could just watch. You can watch the first half of it. There's actually some stuff I learned about the making of Power Rangers and what happened, but the second half is just solely focused on like the Tommy, what happened to him, and I was like, I don't want to get sad, so I mean. I didn't watch the second half, but the first half was fairly decent. Yeah.
The one thing I will shout out that show though, the week it came out, I noticed a big uptick in like my Amazon sales ranking. Like, so I know for a fact that it had a positive influence on the book. So I will happily take
that win.
When me and Jim read the book, will you endorse us to our live we're a dance what's it called, interpretive dance of the book?
Yeah, sure. I think I want to get in on that. I'll record some videos and get in on that. Let's go. Like
I will say you coming on the show and everything, we didn't get advanced copies of the book signed by you. I'm really mad about this.
I've got about 15 physical copies that were comped to me by the publisher left. Maybe I can use our mailing address. I can cut it in half.
And we got to meet together to read it. Hey, I did see that video of you actually opening up your own book and just the absolute joy in your face. I was like, this is a face of a man that put a lot of hard work in and now reaping the seeds that he sowed in a book.
It was. I was so ready to I thought I was going to cry. Like I really thought I was going to cry. And thankfully, I had my son in the frame. He was like wanting to, because he can't stay. Like he stays. He's a very much like loves his dad. He wants to be doing everything his daddy's doing. So I let him be in it. But like he ended up getting mad because I took the book away from him or something. So I went from like on the brink of tears to like laughing my ass off. So,
yeah. Are you gonna introduce your son to the Power Rangers as well?
He's watched the show. I mean, he's
Oh.
not like, again, he's like not old enough to know. He's not even the age I was when the show started, but
Gotcha.
but
So-
he reacts. He loves the music. Like, he loves. You
Oh.
want to hear? You know what his favorite song is from the show? You'll never guess.
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
Go
What's it?
Ranger.
The Lord Zed theme.
Oh no.
Oh, okay, good song.
He
Fair enough.
he loses it. He goes ape doo doo.
So-
Yeah.
Legitimate question for you, okay? So legitimate question. You think Power Rangers is going to be our Gunsmoke?
Ooh. I can see that happen. Yeah. Different variations.
It's
of Gunsmoke.
about the amount of episodes for Gunsmoke.
That's interesting.
Pretty-
I do think it is in a very interesting place as a TV show, because I've thought about this a lot recently. Because one of the
Mhm.
books that so when I was doing the process of wanting to write this or thinking about writing this, I also started reading other books about TV shows and
Mhm.
finding other authors and I also got to shout out Jennifer K. Armstrong and Kimberly Potts, two of the people who wrote books like that. They also hosted a podcast during COVID that I found that explained basically the whole process of pitching a book like this. So I was eating that stuff up. And it was a huge help. It was absolutely made the book happen. One of the Kimberly Potts, she wrote a book about the Brady Bunch, and it's very similar to, it's about the Brady Bunch, but it's effectively my book is two Power Rangers, what her book is to the Brady Bunch. And I've thought about so much about because TV's changed so much, because I grew up with Nick at Night. That's how I was introduced to the Brady Bunch. That was and shows like Gunsmoke and stuff like TV Land. You grew up watching old shows because that's what was on, at 9 o'clock at night, right before you're going to bed. And that in a way does exist for kids like my son. They can go, he can find Power Rangers, his favorite season of Power Rangers could be a season that came out when I was 15, and that's so interesting to think, and he could access it immediately without any barrier. Even if it gets yanked from streaming, it's on my shelf. He could watch it, whereas, but also there's a choice involved in that we didn't have. We had things forced into us.
Yes.
This is the one that was on. Yeah. This is the one that was on.
And so that's the difference with the kids coming up now. That I'm really, as a dad, I'm excited to see kind of what he's into, but I'm also how he will interact with media and the things he starts to love is going to be so much different than how I was, kind of conditioned. So it'll be really fascinating to see how that all comes out.
So our Mighty Morphin was Mighty Morphin. I wonder what your son's Mighty Morphin's going to be. What's going to be his first season that he's going to watch?
Yeah, remember.
I mean, I'll probably. I mean, if my influence has any say, I'm a chronological person. Let's start at the beginning and go forward.
Yeah.
But but I mean, if we're being honest, he'll one day point to one of them and say, "Ooh, I like those weird costumes," and so we'll be knee deep in Ninja Steel. So
watch, it's gonna be Lost Galaxy because of Charlie Brown uniforms.
Oh my god, yeah.
Well, like that. Damn it.
Hey, I could get down with Lost Galaxy. I love it. That's my favorite theme song, actually, in the whole show. It's the Lost Galaxy theme song.
It's a pretty fun theme song. It's pretty, and then
I absolutely love Lost Galaxy because it's the first season that did not have ties to the Zordon era.
It really tried. I know it
tried.
Yeah.
Alpha was there in the Astro Mega ship. What are you talking about?
The question I have is at the end of the season, it crashes, right? But Bulk is on there. And the professor the professor's on. Yeah. What happened to them? What?
Well, Phenomenus is, I guess, dead.
Unless he found the Fountain of Youth or something.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
And Bulk, we I guess he opened a bar at some point later on, and
then traveled back to Earth at some point.
He came back
unless Samurai is a completely different universe and or on Terra Venture.
What?
Not Terra Venture. What's the planet called?
Marinoid.
Marinoid.
Unless it's on Marinoid, but they say it's Earth constantly. So,
or maybe they were raised to think it was Earth.
Now the question is.
Whoa.
The question is, did you by any chance find our podcast with the what was it called? Morphing? No. Where we related 1984 to Power Rangers Samurai?
With the power trip.
Yeah, Power Trip. Yeah,
I have not.
Yeah.
See, I'm going.
1984. Power to Samurai is 1984.
Oh, interesting.
It's amazing. It's a 3-hour rant.
Yeah.
How much
Okay,
I hated that season.
I'm down. I'm down. I'm excited. I'm gonna go find
It's actually really good.
Yeah. So in the Power Ranger fandom, you know how the show kind of like leaves gaps and where fan theories kind of fill it in.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say is your favorite fan theory gap close?
That's interesting. I don't engage with that as much as some people, but I love that the show, like the way, just the nature of the show, what it is, a kid's show that has this really like rabid adult fan base around it is naturally going to gravitate towards wanting to fill in those gaps, and because that's what we want. We want explanations for things sometimes. For a long time, I was really into like the Phantom Ranger is Billy thing, like that.
Whoa.
And I still, there's still part of me that subscribes to that, even though like there's a lot of things to point to like that never being the case. Because by the time because I know Boom did their thing with Phantom Ranger, but also like even if you just ignored that, like I feel like Billy would have brought it up at some point during Cosmic Fury if he'd been the Phantom Ranger. So the ship might have sailed on that one.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. That's fair. All right. So, all right, Jen, you want to wrap this one up? Well, not you, but I will.
Yeah, let's go.
Oh. Well, hey, Joshua, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight and talking Power Rangers and in your amazing book that you have just released. Best believe me and Jim are going to get one. I'm going to bully him into getting one.
If you send me a signed copy, it's guaranteed I'll have it.
Oh,
I'm just saying. I like signed copy of books.
Yeah, me too.
I'll tell you
get all
this,
famous, I could sell it for a lot of money. Yeah.
If you buy one, I know you did the Morphenomenal Expo, right? Like I really,
Yes.
I've never been to Texas. I want to, and I want to go to that show. And I want to visit San Antonio. I just think like that's a city that this is gonna get a little sad for a second. So I had a cousin who was a huge San Antonio Spurs fan.
Oh yes,
and it was like that was like our main tether. Like he was a big comic. He got me into like Batman comics and stuff, and like he was like someone who first got me into comics. He died by suicide a few years ago, and so and we never got the chance to go. Like we talked about going to a Spurs game forever together, and so I want to make that pilgrimage for him as much as doing the Power Rangers thing.
I will tell you here now, the food's gonna blow your mind.
Beautiful city, yeah.
The food's way better than Kentucky.
Spurs fan. I'm a big Spurs fan too. I actually went to school with the guy that played for the Spurs and contracted with Curtis Gerald.
Okay.
He had a 10 game. He had a 10 game contract within like the 2010s.
That's awesome.
But I went to school with him, and he ended up, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna start watching the Spurs, and then that's when the big three were still there, and I was like, absolutely love these big three, and now they're gone. Now I'm sad. So
hey, now you got Wembanyama now, so
yeah,
De'Aaron Fox, one of Kentucky's guys.
And I saw Chris Paul, and I was like, when did he get here? So if you ever go, they actually have one coming up called Kaiju Matsuri, but they're gonna have a lot of Sentai.
I got on their page and saw that. That looks really, really fun.
So, and the event, the venue that they're going to be at is very nerd friendly. So, like a lot of the shop, it's a mall, and the mall has like anime shops or like Sentai shops.
They have like a small boutique, like it's called the boutiques of San Antonio or something like that. It's like a small, it's really all nerdy stuff. It's all really fun. You'll love it. It's great.
You'll love it.
The guys who run it are amazing.
Yeah, we'll be there. And the river walk is not too far away from there, and
it's around the corner.
Can just go, you can just walk the river walk, and it's pretty nice.
Oh yeah, because I'd like to come down for that show. I would love to come as a guest. Even like I would pay for my travel. The hotel is a thing that's hard to like.
Or if you go, me and Jim will sponsor you. We can sponsor. All we got to do is just pay for flight and hotel room.
Oh well, I would not
throw him in the bus like that.
For that.
We're doing it now.
We're trying to get money out of him, Billy. Come on. What are you doing?
He just said he wouldn't want it. Now we're doing it. So
that's on you, buddy.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again, Joshua, for coming up on here with us and just chit-chatting about your book, Power Rangers. We didn't get into toys, so we're going to have a whole other episode about toys.
Let's do it. I loved, again, you were all talking about the expo on one of your shows and bringing up the vendors. That's one thing that I increasingly bothers me when I like our local Comic-Con every year. Like, I don't even look at the toys because I just see the same toys over there. It's like it's the same thing. Like it's like the same Power Rangers toys. It's like I'm tired of looking at these triangular boxes. No offense, I love that stuff. I'm kind of getting more into like the weird stuff. Like I was on eBay last night looking at like transforming Jungle Fury toys, like weird, really weird stuff. So like that's the stuff I want to see at some of these shows. Like
they have a lot of like really cool stuff there for vendors. And
the guys Jim, they bring in actually solid collection.
Jim, what'd you call that one dude? Country Bumpkin? No.
Okay, the dude was super nice, but damn it, I was so mad. Country Bumpkin ass.
So I was like, Podunk Town looking dude.
Nicest guy. I'll give him that nicest dude, and I'm happy he got what he got. I'm still mad about it, but dang it. I understand. I'm just mad about it. No offense to you, buddy. If you listen to the show, I'm just mad about it. You were super nice.
You're on his list. So, as we leave the show, where can people find your book to purchase, and where can people find you to follow you?
Yeah, the book is available on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, bookshop.org. I bring that up. It's a site people maybe haven't heard of as much. I didn't know about it until I got into this whole book deal process, but it allows you, if you have a local bookstore you want to support, or first, actually, I want to circle back. Buy it from ask your local bookstore to order it if you and I think you should be able to order it through like a comic book store too. Like they have you should be able to order it through them. So do that if to support your local store. But Bookshop allows you to do that anywhere, and you can support if I ordered a copy of the book and wanted to send it to you guys and support a shop in Texas, I can designate part of the funds to go to that bookstore in Texas. Okay. So I think that's pretty cool.
He puts it out to be shipped to El Paso.
But
El Paso. Nope.
So definitely the book is called Morphenomenal. It's spelled as it sounds, and you can't miss it. It's a very retro vibe book cover with the original 6 Mighty Morphin on it. Can't miss it. How much is it going for now? It's I saw $24.99.
Yeah, I think it depends. There's a couple places you can find it for $19, but with $4 shipping. So, but regardless, if you're getting it, it's usually about $23, $24. I think the ebook is maybe a couple bucks cheaper on Barnes and Noble, Amazon. But yeah, and for if you're just looking for a generic page where my website joshuamoore.com, kind of that's an easy landing page for all my socials and stuff about the book with links and everything. So, and if you're listening to this and you're from the UK, it goes on sale right now. The only UK link I'm familiar with is an Amazon site. But it's it doesn't drop there until July 25th. It's still under pre-order in the UK. So
okay,
that's something.
No and tie.
Yeah, we got a couple out there that are big Power Ranger fans too. I'll probably peer pressure them into getting it as well.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah,
a couple dollars off of us.
It's a big it is a big Power Rangers had a really strong life in the UK, and those fans kind of get left out a lot of times. So
big time, yeah. All right. Well, thanks again for hanging out with us. The Bulk of Skull Podcasting, Jim and Bill. Now, so you can always find us.
I'll be your all's Greg Bullock anytime.
You can be our professor. You'll be our professor. That's it. So, yeah, and you can always find us at Zero to Hero Podcast across all our social platforms. I'm trying to get into more posting again on our. It's been pretty crazy the last couple months, so we're gonna get back into it, nerd out a little. We'll definitely have Joshua back again. Couple things we didn't even touch, so we're gonna get through this again. Jim, are you gonna cut it again like you did the Sopranos?
Yeah,
that's gonna cut it like the Sopranos.
Do you want to be a hero but you're not? Do you want to be a Jiro or a Kojiro, but you can't because you're not Japanese? Have you considered Zio to Hero? Remember, heroes come and go. Idiots are forever. Jubilee! Jubilee!
Yeah. Aren't we?
No,
all,
dude,
though?
it has. Dude, this week it's only Tuesday, and I am already done.
Yeah.
I am so
I was
done.
dragging.
This
I
week.
was dragging earlier. We're in a. Things are weird because I work on a college campus, and so we.
Ooh, yeah.
Well, kind of. I actually work from home, so it's nice. But like, our
Okay.
work is tied to a college campus, and so it kind
Right.
of gets dead in the summer, and
Yeah.
it's like, why am I even paying attention to some of this
I
stuff?
can
Yeah.
live with that for like a few days. I could use that for a few days.
Yeah. Are you actually like you go through what, Kentucky, right? Is that who you go through?
Yeah. I work for the University.
No,
of Kentucky.
it's the University of Alabama,
Gotcha.
Billy. Come on, dude.
Gee, don't you say that name around me, buddy. Oh my god. Our dad's side was huge Bama fans, and I could not be around them on a college
They were
football weekend.
all Bama fans, except
Roll
for him. He
Tide.
was
I
only
was like,
Razorback.
Get out of here.
No, it was bad.
Oh
it
my
was
God.
so bad.
All
Like,
right.
thank God he died.
Oh my god.
It was so bad. We had to go deal with that shit all the time. Like, they're like,
so
you suck. You know.
At her dad's funeral, they had the preacher come out from Alabama, and she's like, we'll forgive you for being a Longhorn fan. And I was in the back row, and I was like, ooh, why I oughta just
And like like he's in the back, like you're dead. I'm gonna get you in the back.
Yeah. Oh
From
my
the
god.
back row.
Hold on, let me
There's
grab
like
my
4,
bag because I was
rows of
gonna
seats
when we
in
start
front of
recording
him.
albums.
Nothing. No one was
Hold on.
there. Come on, hurry up. Get going.
Heroes rise when shadows cast through the timelines flying fast. Legends old with stories vast. In their hands the morphers clasped. Battles fought with heart and steel. Courage in the wounds they heal. From the future to reveal. Heroes stand, they never kneel. CO2 hero lightning blast, breaking free from what's behind. Echoes of the mighty past, guardians of a newer kind. From the chaos order springs, power from the morphing wings. In the silence, hope still sings, destiny in golden rings. Foes may rise a billion strong, standing tall they'll right the wrong. Every heart beats like a gong.
This is the Zio to Hero podcast.